The 7-year-old triplets didn't even know they had a father until they saw him at their mother's funeral. The cold came early that October. A bitter wind swept along the edges of the chapel lawn, rustling the white lilies that circled Emma Thompson's casket. Even the sun, weak and slanting behind clouds, seemed reluctant to shine. James Crawford stood apart from the crowd, a polished silhouette in a navy coat and black leather gloves, his expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. It had been nearly 8 years since he last saw her. He hadn't known she'd died until the call from Margaret Thompson, her sister, arrived 3 nights ago. The voice on the line had been firm, rehearsed. "She wanted you to know. She didn't say to come. That part's up to you." And now he stood here, not knowing why he had come at all. A small cough beside him made him turn. A boy, no, 2 boys, twins, huddled by a woman's side. One clutched a small stuffed dolphin, the other had his arms crossed, jaw tight, like he was trying not to cry. They couldn't have been older than 5. The girl beside them, maybe 20, had tears streaking silently down her face. Another woman, older, gray-haired and hunched in a brown coat, kept her arms tight around the trio like a shield. James's eyes narrowed. He didn't know them. Yet something about the children pulled at him with unsettling force. The shape of their mouths. The defiance in the eyes of the one gripping the stuffed toy. Something was wrong. He could feel it in his chest before his mind could name it. He turned away, unwilling to explore the thought. The priest's voice droned on, a distant echo behind the storm of memory rising inside him. Emma in a red coat laughing on a Brooklyn street. Emma with flushed cheeks after long shifts. Emma, strong-willed and quiet, never one to beg. The last time he saw her, she was standing on the edge of their penthouse kitchen, holding a pregnancy test he never believed. He hadn't asked for proof. He'd walked away. Now she was gone. After the service, guests moved indoors to the church hall. He remained outside, watching as the little group from earlier lingered by the grave. The boys were whispering now, kneeling at the mound of freshly turned earth, the older woman placing a mittened hand on each of their backs. The girl, Emma's niece, he guessed, took out a crumpled drawing and tucked it beneath a bouquet. A child's scrawl in bright marker peeked out. "Love you, Mommy." "We'll keep drawing like you said." James stared. "Mommy." He took one slow step forward. Then another. His shadow stretched across the gravel. The boy with the dolphin looked up. Their eyes met. Blue, sharp, and steady. The boy blinked, then whispered something to his brother. They both turned to look at James. Neither smiled. The woman, Margaret perhaps, stepped between them gently, placing herself in James's line of sight. Her gaze was steady, neither welcoming nor hostile. "You came," she said simply. "I didn't expect." "I didn't either," she replied. They stood in silence. "Who are they?" he asked finally. She hesitated. "Emma's sons." A sharp breath caught in his throat. "Sons?" She nodded. "Triplets, actually. One of the girls is inside with the nurse. Had a stomach ache this morning." His vision swayed for a second. "Triplets. How old?" he managed. 7. Their birthday was last month." Her voice gentled. "Emma raised them on her own." James stepped back. The wind picked up again, sending a flurry of leaves spinning between them. "She never told me." "No," Margaret said. "She didn't." The boys had returned their gaze to the grave, fingers gently rearranging the drawing that had begun to lift in the breeze. James turned and walked away. He didn't notice his hands shaking until he was back in his car. It began with a name on a file. 3 days after the funeral, James Crawford sat alone in his office, the skyline of Manhattan blazing behind him. Autumn had come in full, leaves tumbling like embers past the floor-to-ceiling windows, Central Park burning gold. But his mind was elsewhere, still stranded in that cemetery, where 2 boys had stared at him with eyes that looked so terribly familiar. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Triplets. 7 years old. Emma had said nothing. No letters. No legal filings. Nothing in all these years. He had never received a child support claim, never even a whisper. Why? His hands moved restlessly over his desk. Then, almost without thinking, he opened the drawer and pulled out the slim manila envelope Margaret had pressed into his hand before he left the service. "You'll want this," she'd said, "when you're ready." It contained copies of birth certificates. 3 of them. No father listed on any. Only the mother's name, Emma Grace Thompson. The names were unfamiliar, Liam, Jude, and Ellie. But as he stared at the ink, something in his chest shifted. Beneath the certificates were school photos, 2 boys and a girl, all with Emma's coloring and, God help him, his eyes. There was a warmth in their smiles that stung. And then, the final item, a note, written in Emma's hand, dated just 3 weeks before her death. "If anything happens to me, Margaret knows what to do. I never wanted them to grow up with a father who didn't believe they were real. But if he ever asks, tell him this. I never wanted your money. I wanted your belief. I wanted you to trust me when I said they were yours." James sat frozen, the letter trembling slightly in his hand. Guilt, that slow acidic ache, began its crawl through his ribs. He hadn't trusted her. In his world, trust was transactional. Earned through contracts and compliance. Emma had stood in front of him with nothing but her word, and he turned it into ash. That night, he poured himself a glass of scotch and called a name from his past. "Marcus," he said when the call picked up. "I need someone who can check school records quietly. Private schools, New York City, 7-year-old triplets. Last name Thompson. The mother was Emma Thompson. She died last week." There was a pause. "James, are they yours?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The results came back the next morning, enrollment at a small progressive private school in Brooklyn. Margaret Thompson was listed as their guardian. Emergency contacts included a pediatrician, a retired social worker, and a neighbor named Elena. The children had no known father on record. He stared at the printout. His name had never existed in their world. Until now. 2 days later, he was parked across the street from the school. It wasn't the kind of place he would have imagined, no pristine gates or limestone facades. Just a brick building with bright murals on the side and a courtyard full of children in puffer coats and neon backpacks. The kind of place where kids got muddy and loud and real. And there they were. Liam was the first he recognized, even from across the playground. The same defiant tilt of the head, hands jammed into his pockets like he was daring the world to disappoint him. Jude was quieter, gentler, pushing Ellie on a swing while murmuring something that made her laugh. James watched them, frozen. He had built a billion-dollar company from nothing. Negotiated mergers, overhauled failing firms, dismantled competitors. But this, 3 small strangers who might be his, terrified him. "Excuse me?" The voice jolted him. An older woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard was peering into his car window. "You can't sit here during school hours. It makes the staff nervous." James cleared his throat. "Apologies. I was just picking someone up?" "No. Just passing by." She gave him one long, suspicious glance before walking off. He didn't stay. Margaret met him 2 days later at a cafe near the hospital. She looked older than he remembered, but strong, composed. "I thought you might come," she said, sipping tea. "I didn't know about them," he began. "I know. I didn't believe her," he added, quieter. "I know that too." They sat in silence for a moment. "I want to see them," he said finally. Her gaze sharpened. "Why?" He hesitated. "Because I should. Because they're mine." "Now they are?" He swallowed the sting. "I made mistakes." Margaret leaned forward. "Emma spent her last years building a world where they felt safe, supported, and loved. She chose to raise them without anger. That was a decision I didn't always agree with, but I respected it. So let me be clear. You don't just walk in and claim them. They're not a project, James. They're not a merger. They're children. I'm not here to fight." "Good," Because if you had been, I'd have buried you in paperwork so fast your suit would have sued for custody. He almost smiled. Almost. I'm asking for time, he said. 1 hour a week. Somewhere neutral. You can be there. I just want to try. She studied him. You'll show up? I will. They might not like you. I wouldn't blame them. More silence. Then, she reached into her bag and pulled out a photograph. It was Ellie's drawing from the funeral, preserved behind plastic. Start here, she said. Bring crayons. That's her currency. That Sunday, James stood outside a library in Carroll Gardens. Inside, a children's room buzzed with quiet activity. Margaret arrived with the kids in tow. They spotted him at the same time. Liam froze, staring hard. Jude tugged his sister's sleeve, whispering. Ellie just looked up, then back down at the sidewalk. James knelt to their level. Hi, he said. They said nothing. I brought drawing supplies. I thought, maybe we could make something? More silence. Then Ellie, small and grave, stepped forward and peered into the bag. You have purple? He nodded. She took it. Okay. You can sit by me. Liam glared. Jude said nothing, but sat down. Margaret didn't say a word. She just watched. James slowly sat, surrounded by the children he never knew he had, and picked up a crayon. He didn't draw. He listened. And for the first time in years he stayed. The second meeting was at the park. James arrived early again. He had never waited for anyone in his life, clients, associates, reporters, always the other way around. But these children made him wait without even asking. And something about that felt right. He chose a bench near the sandbox, coffee cooling between his palms, blazer exchanged for a worn brown coat that hadn't seen daylight in years. He wasn't sure what children wore in October, so he had spent the morning at a bookstore, letting a clerk help him pick out 3 picture books that were quiet but not boring. They arrived 20 minutes late. Margaret gave him a look that was almost amused. Traffic, she said. Ellie ran straight to the sandbox without so much as a glance. Jude followed more slowly. Liam trailed last, his hands in the pockets of a worn denim jacket. James stood. I brought books. Thought maybe. Why now? Liam interrupted. His voice was flat, too calm for a child. Why do you care now? James blinked. That's a fair question. Liam stared at him. Waiting. James crouched to his level. Because I didn't believe your mother. I made a mistake. A big one. And now I want to make it right. She died. I know. And you weren't there. I wasn't. Liam looked away, jaw tight. I don't like you yet. James nodded. That's okay. I'll wait. Jude sat on the bench and opened one of the books. Ellie was now building a castle with a kind stranger's bucket and shovel, narrating to herself in soft, serious tones. For 40 minutes, they did not talk to him. Jude read silently. Liam drew in the dirt with a stick. Ellie only came over once, to demand a tissue and a juice box. James had neither. Margaret handed them over without a word. When it was time to go, Ellie stood in front of James and squinted up at him. Are you going to come next week? If you want me to. She shrugged. I guess. James tried not to smile. Then I will. She turned, then paused. Bring juice next time. Apple, not weird ones. As they walked away, Margaret lagged behind for a moment. You're doing better than I thought. James let out a breath. They don't trust me. They shouldn't. Not yet. Over the following weeks, a strange rhythm developed. Wednesdays were for reading. Sundays were for drawing. One Saturday, when it rained too hard for the park, they spent an hour in a corner cafe where Jude pointed out every grammar mistake on the chalkboard menu, and Ellie spilled cocoa on James's lap. Liam didn't speak much, but he stayed closer each time. James found himself looking forward to their questions. Do you work in a building with windows that go all the way up? Have you ever eaten 20 hot dogs in one day? Do rich people get bored? Some made him laugh. Others stopped him cold. One evening Liam asked, Did you love her? James stared at the ground. Yes. Then why didn't you come back? James swallowed. Because I was afraid. And proud. And wrong. Liam nodded. He didn't say anything else. At home, James's world began to bend. He stopped taking calls during their meetings. His assistant noticed. You've been different, she said carefully. I've been human, he replied. Then softer. I think I missed the chance to be someone decent. I don't want to miss it again. He started keeping their drawings, folded up in his desk, some taped to the fridge in a luxury kitchen no one visited. Ellie once made a stick figure family labeled me, Jude, Liam, Aunt Em, and Mr. Browncoat. It took him 2 days to realize Browncoat was him. The turning point came in the form of a scraped knee. They were at the zoo. James had offered to fund a school trip in Emma's name. Margaret had let him accompany them. Jude tripped while climbing rocks near the snow leopard enclosure. It wasn't bad, just blood and tears, but the moment he cried out, time slowed. James was there in 2 strides, crouched beside him. You're okay, he murmured, checking the knee with the gentleness of someone learning as he went. It's just a scrape. Do you want to sit? I've got water. And tissues. Apple juice too. Jude looked up, blinking through tears. You remembered the juice? Of course. They sat for a long time. When the others rejoined them, Ellie climbed into James's lap without invitation. Liam didn't say anything. But later, as they were leaving, he walked beside James quietly. Then, you fixed it fast. James raised an eyebrow. The knee? Liam nodded. I'll try to fix more, James said softly. If you let me. Liam didn't answer. But he didn't walk away. The invitation came in the form of a folded piece of purple construction paper. James found it tucked into the inside pocket of his coat, slipped there, he suspected, by Ellie when he had knelt to tie her bootlaces outside the library. Inside was a message written in glitter pen, letters shaped like tiny cats. You can come to my birthday. Liam and Jude say maybe. Margaret said to ask. There will be cake. Don't bring boring toys. Love, Ellie. He stared at it for nearly a minute, then took out his phone and texted Margaret. James, I received an invitation. Margaret, she made it herself. Consider yourself approved by royal decree. James, should I bring anything? Margaret, just yourself. And maybe a not boring toy. They lived in a brownstone in Park Slope. 2nd floor, no elevator. The hallway smelled faintly of cinnamon and laundry detergent. When he knocked, Jude opened the door in a paper crown. Hi, he said. Then turned and shouted over his shoulder. It's Browncoat. Liam appeared, hands stuffed in hoodie pockets. Ellie ran past them both, arms flung wide. You came! Do you want chocolate cake or yellow cake or the one with the sprinkles? Also, we don't do party hats because they make Jude nervous. James blinked. Chocolate is great. The living room was transformed. Streamers looped from the ceiling fan, paper lanterns glowed in soft pinks and blues, and a banner, clearly hand-lettered, read, Ellie's birthday, also Jude and Liam but mostly Ellie's. Margaret greeted him with a nod. You're brave. I brought gifts, he said, holding up 3 wrapped boxes, each carefully labeled. I may have gone overboard. I'll ration them if necessary, she replied. They've never had a father try to impress them with capitalism. James winced. I'm not trying to buy. I know, she interrupted gently. They know too. Just be ready. They've started asking. He frowned. About me? She nodded. More directly. About who you are. Later, while the children played with a set of magnetic building blocks he brought, James found himself standing alone by the bookcase. Photos lined the shelves. Emma holding a baby, Emma at a beach with 3 toddlers and sun hats, Emma asleep on the couch with all 3 nestled against her. There was laughter in the images, and something harder too, resilience, fatigue, joy tempered by effort. He had missed it all. You should see what she wrote about you. James turned. Margaret held a slim notebook. I found this when I packed her things. It's not a diary. More like thoughts she never said out loud. He hesitated. May I? She handed it over. He flipped to a page marked with a torn ticket stub. Jude asked today if his dad was an astronaut. I said no. He asked if his dad knew he existed. I said I didn't know. And I didn't lie. Because I don't. Because James never looked back. Because maybe he really believed I lied. That hurts more than if he just didn't care. Another page. I want them to have roots. But not chains. They'll know their story one day. All of it. But not until they have the strength to carry it. James shut the notebook. His hands shook. After the guests left, and the children were tucked in, Margaret poured tea. They're asleep, she said. You can go. Or stay a minute. He stayed. She told them nothing? Margaret shrugged. She told them stories. A man who worked with stars. A traveler. A mystery. She wanted them to feel special, not abandoned. I abandoned them anyway. You did, she said without venom. But you're here now. He rubbed his face. I don't know how to be a father. No one does. Some just start earlier. There was a long pause. They'll ask soon, she added. They'll want to know if you're their father. He nodded. Will you tell them? James hesitated. Then, not until they're ready. Until they trust me. I want them to choose to see me that way. Margaret looked at him with something almost like kindness. They might surprise you. The surprise came sooner than expected. The next morning, Liam found him in the hallway, coat half buttoned, keys in hand. Did you love my mom? James froze. Yes. Were you there when she died? No. Liam's jaw tightened. But you come to birthdays now. James crouched. I missed a lot, Liam. But I want to be here now. For everything else. If you'll let me. The boy studied him, eyes narrow, voice a whisper. Are you my dad? James's mouth opened. No sound came out. Then Ellie appeared, tugging at her brother's arm. Liam, she said, exasperated. We already decided he's our brown coat. That's better than a regular dad. She took James's hand without waiting and pulled him into the kitchen. Behind them, Liam followed. He didn't ask again. But he didn't let go of James's other hand either. James had never believed in ghosts, but he began to see Emma everywhere. In the way Ellie tilted her head when she was deep in thought. In Jude's habit of writing questions in the margins of his books. In Liam's silence, layered, watchful, not cold but cautious. It wasn't memory. It was something stranger, deeper. As if the woman he had once loved had scattered her spirit across 3 small bodies and dared him to find her again. And he did. In fragments. Every Sunday. One afternoon, as Jude tugged him toward a shelf at the public library and whispered, "These books smell like smart people," James felt something shift. Not a dramatic moment. Just a small, steady truth settling in. He was falling in love with his children. It was Liam who made him face the past. They were at the botanical garden in the Bronx. Jude and Ellie raced ahead toward the pumpkin maze. James walked beside Liam, who had been unusually quiet, even for him. Margaret said you used to live with Mom, Liam said, eyes fixed on the path. James inhaled slowly. Yes. A long time ago. And then you left. A statement, not a question. Yes, he said. Liam stopped. Why? James looked at him, really looked. The boy's face was thin, serious, too mature for his years. He deserved the truth. Or at least the part of it that a child could carry. Because I made a mistake. I thought something that wasn't true. And I didn't listen when I should have. Liam crossed his arms. She said you didn't believe her. I didn't, James admitted. And I've regretted it every day since. Liam stared at the koi pond nearby, the fish gliding beneath the surface. Then he said quietly, "I was mad at her for dying." James blinked. "You were? She promised she'd always be here. Then she wasn't." He looked up, voice flat. "I don't like it when people lie." James knelt beside him, knees aching on the cold stone. "She didn't lie, Liam. She just couldn't stay." Liam said nothing. Then he sat beside James and asked, "Do you think she'd be mad if I liked you?" It broke him. "No," James said, his voice barely steady. "I think she'd be proud. Of you? Of how brave you are. And I think she'd want you to know I'm trying to be someone worth liking." Liam didn't answer. But that night, when James turned to leave, the boy muttered, "You forgot your scarf." It was folded on the hall table. James took it, heart thudding. He hadn't worn it in weeks. The shift was quiet but real. Ellie began calling him Dad by accident, once when asking for help with a cereal box, again when handing him a crayon during a drawing contest. Jude asked if engineers could also be dads. James said yes. Jude nodded and said, "Okay. That makes sense." Liam didn't say anything new. But when a school play was scheduled, and James offered to attend, he simply shrugged and said, "Front row's better." Then the letter arrived. It came in a white envelope, no return address, postmarked from Singapore. James recognized the handwriting immediately, Helen Chin Crawford. His ex-wife. Inside was a single typed sheet. "You should know, Margaret has cancer. Stage 4. Pancreatic. She's not saying anything. I found out by accident through a hospital contact. You have a choice. Be there or don't. But don't wait this time. H." The room tilted. Margaret. The woman who had held everything together. The woman who had every reason to hate him, and didn't. He called her that evening. "You okay?" he asked. There was a pause. "You know. I do now." She sighed. "Don't tell the kids yet. Please. Have you started treatment?" "Refused it." "Why?" "I'd rather have 6 good months than 12 miserable ones." He was silent for a moment. "Can I help?" "Be here," she said. "Every minute you can." "I will." She hesitated. Then softer. "She chose you, you know. Back then. When she didn't tell you. I didn't agree. But she believed in your potential more than your past. I don't deserve it." "No," Margaret said. "But none of us deserve grace. We only get it when someone chooses to give it." The next Sunday, he brought donuts. Ellie squealed. Jude recited fun facts about powdered sugar. Liam leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed. James waited. Finally, Liam said, "So we're going to your house next week, right? You promised." James blinked. "Yes. If you still want to." "Yeah. We want to." Margaret raised an eyebrow but said nothing. James took a breath. They were coming home. The elevator to the penthouse opened without a sound. Jude was the first to step inside, eyes wide, neck craned toward the impossibly tall ceilings. Ellie followed, running her hand along the textured wall like it was velvet. Liam hung back, glancing at James as if unsure this wasn't some elaborate trick. "Come on," James said gently. "It's just an apartment." "It's not just," Ellie replied, nose wrinkling. "It's so clean. I had someone come before you arrived. So it doesn't smell like you," Jude added. "It smells like lemons and metal." James almost laughed. "Noted." They walked the perimeter of the living room like museum visitors, quiet, cautious, curious. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panorama of Manhattan in late autumn, yellow and crimson trees nestled between concrete spires. The city looked peaceful from this height, like it had forgotten how loud it could be. Ellie flopped onto the couch. "Do you have juice?" "In the kitchen. Fridge door." She was gone in seconds. Jude lingered at the bookshelf, running his fingers over spines with unfamiliar titles: business, architecture, strategy. Liam said nothing, pacing slowly until his steps led him down the hall and into a doorway. James followed. The guest room. And the framed photos on the dresser. 3 identical silver frames. 3 different children. The same photo James had taken from Margaret's envelope, the school pictures. You put them here, Liam said. James stood in the doorway. Yes. Why not in the living room? The question hung in the air. James didn't lie. I was afraid it was too soon. For you or for us? Another silence. Then Jude appeared, holding 2 juice boxes. You only had mango. Ellie, trailing behind, frowned. You said you remembered. James raised his hands. I failed the juice test. I'll do better next week. Liam was still staring at the photos. Dinner was quiet. He'd had it catered, home-style, kid-friendly, served in ceramic dishes to disguise the fact. Ellie devoured the mac and cheese. Jude dissected a chicken leg with surgical precision. Liam poked at a biscuit before asking, Is this what you eat every day? James shook his head. I usually forget to eat. Why? I get busy. With your company? Yes. Does your company matter more than people? The question hit harder than it should have. James looked up, met Liam's eyes. It used to, he said. It doesn't now. Later, they found the piano. It sat near the window, untouched, sleek and black. Ellie tapped the keys. Jude played a stumbling C major. Liam sat down and, without announcement, began to play something delicate, unsure, half-remembered. You take lessons? James asked. No. Margaret has an old keyboard. The melody faltered, then resolved into silence. James spoke quietly. Your mom played. All 3 children looked up. She used to hum while she played. Usually when she was sad. Ellie climbed onto the bench beside Liam. I'm not sad. No, James said. But you're a lot like her. Jude found the letter the next day. It had fallen behind a stack of papers on James's desk, an envelope, yellowed slightly at the edges, with Emma scrawled across the front in pen. Dated over 7 years ago. Who's this from? Jude asked. James froze. What did you find that? Over there. Jude pointed. It's not sealed. James took it gently, heart thudding. He had forgotten it existed. Inside was a single page, written in Emma's hand. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe because someday I'll need you to know, even if I never send it. They're yours. All 3. I see you in the way Liam frowns when he concentrates. In Jude's quiet curiosity. In Ellie's questions. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd break them like you broke me. But if you ever come back, really come back, not just with your name but with your heart, I hope you find this. I hope you're ready. James sat down. The children watched. He read the letter twice before folding it carefully. Then he looked up at Jude. It's from your mother. To me. What does it say? That I have a lot to make up for. Jude said nothing. But he sat beside him on the couch. A minute later Liam joined. Then Ellie. No one spoke. They didn't have to. The next day, James cleared space on the living room wall. He framed the children's drawings. Hung them above the piano. Left the guest room door open. When they returned the following Sunday, Ellie ran straight to the wall. You did it! She shouted. I told you I'd try. Jude inspected the frames like a curator. You got the dates right. Liam just looked. And smiled. A real one. The call came on a Thursday. James was in a boardroom on the 61st floor, giving a presentation he could have delivered in his sleep. Outside, Manhattan blurred into grays and silvers, the first hints of snow swirling against the glass. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Once. Twice. Then a text. Margaret collapsed. Methodist Hospital. Come now. He didn't excuse himself. Just walked out mid-sentence, leaving behind startled faces and a projection still glowing with charts and profit curves. By the time he reached the hospital, she was already awake, Barely. Twice in 1 year, she croaked, her voice thinner than he'd ever heard it. You really are becoming dependable. James sank into the chair beside her. Her skin looked waxen under the fluorescent lights, her hands frail beneath the 4 lines. What happened? He asked. Pancreas decided it's tired of pretending, she said. They say days now. Maybe a week. His breath caught. The kids? Not yet, she said quickly. They still think I had a bad cold. You want me to tell them? She nodded slowly. But not with scripts. Don't soften it too much. They're sharp kids. They'll see through lies. He stared at the floor. I thought I had more time, he whispered. We all do, he told them the next day. They were in the brownstone living room, school bags dropped haphazardly by the door. He knelt, no desk between them, no height advantage, and told them as clearly as he could. Margaret is very sick, he said. She has cancer. And it's gotten worse. Jude looked at him, eyes narrowing. But she was getting better. She didn't want you to worry, James said. She wanted to protect you. Ellie started to cry. Quietly, like she was afraid to be the first. Liam said nothing at all. He just stood and walked into the kitchen. James followed. I should have known, Liam muttered, fists clenched. She kept saying she was fine. But she was tired all the time. She didn't even eat the waffles last week. She didn't want you to carry the weight, James said gently. I'm not a baby. No, James said. You're not. But you're still allowed to be sad. Liam's jaw trembled, then tightened again. What happens now? James didn't know what made him say it. Maybe the way the question hung in the air. Maybe the way Liam asked not with fear, but with the cold efficiency of someone bracing for impact. They'll stay with me, he said. If you want. If you'll let me. That night, Jude asked if he could sleep at James's place. Then Ellie. Liam didn't ask. But he packed a small bag without comment. Margaret, when James visited her that weekend, smiled at the news. They chose you, she said. You earned it. I don't know if I'm ready, he confessed. No one ever is. She paused. Then reached for his hand. I need you to do something. Anything. Let them grieve in pieces. Don't rush them through it. Don't tell them to be strong when they need to fall apart. I won't. And don't hide either. If you're hurting, let them see it. You're not their replacement. You're their bridge. James nodded. I'll try. Margaret closed her eyes. Then maybe we'll all be okay. She died 4 days later. Peacefully in her sleep. The children came to the hospital that morning. James was waiting outside the room. He didn't stop them. They went in one at a time. Ellie came out first. Tear-streaked but composed. Jude stayed longest. When he emerged, he was holding her scarf. Liam didn't cry. He walked past James and down the hallway, fists clenched so tight his knuckles turned white. James followed him to the stairwell. She left, Liam whispered. She didn't want to. She promised she'd be here. She stayed as long as she could. I hate her for it, Liam said suddenly. And I hate me for saying it. James stepped forward, rested a hand on his shoulder. It's okay. No, it's not, Liam said, breaking at last. It's not okay. None of this is. James pulled him in, held him through the storm of grief. Not as a father. Not as a savior. Just as someone who finally knew how it felt to lose someone you never got to say enough to. They buried Margaret on a windy morning, snow threatening but never falling. James spoke briefly. Ellie placed a letter in the casket. Jude read a poem. Liam stood with his arms around both of them. Later that evening, they returned to James's apartment. There was no announcement. No ceremony. No declaration of what came next. But when Ellie unpacked her suitcase and put her drawing pad on the desk, when Jude placed his book beside James's on the nightstand, when Liam slipped the photo of Emma and Margaret into the kitchen window frame, That was the moment James understood. They weren't visiting anymore. They were home. The apartment didn't feel like his anymore. Not entirely. James noticed it in the smallest things. A half-eaten banana on the kitchen counter. The tiny socks draped on the back of the couch. Crayon marks on the marble tiles near the window, Ellie's secret art gallery. Jude had claimed the spare bedroom, lining the shelves with science books and tiny origami animals. Liam didn't decorate, but he left a basketball under the bench by the door, his quiet way of saying I live here too. Grief came in quiet waves. Ellie sometimes climbed into his bed at 3 a.m. and whispered, "Can I just be not strong for a while?" Jude kept asking technical questions about cancer, about cell mutation and pain thresholds, trying to make sense of what took Margaret away. And Liam withdrew into headphones and sketchpads, eyes red but always dry. James didn't try to fix them. He let them feel what they needed to. And when they asked if he was okay, he told them the truth. Not really. But I'm here. The new routine settled like dust. Mornings were rushed and beautiful. 3 kids, 1 toaster, and James standing by the door holding a single travel mug while shouting, "Backpacks! Shoes! Yes, the permission slip!" He had started working from home most days. His assistants adjusted. His board raised eyebrows. He didn't care. One afternoon, Jude came home with a permission slip for a science fair. "Will you come?" he asked. "Of course," James said. "I mean, will you really come? Or will something come up?" James knelt beside him. "I'll be there. No matter what." Jude studied him, then nodded. "Okay. I believe you." James hadn't realized how much he needed to hear that. Then came the letter. A legal envelope slipped between utility bills. From Emma. Dated a year before her death. Inside, a notarized document. Her will. She had left everything to the children. But in the final paragraph, there was something more. "If James ever comes back, not to apologize, but to stay, then I want him to have the journal. The one I never let anyone read. Give it to him only if he's really their father. Not by blood. By presence." Attached was a note from Margaret. "I didn't give it to you before. I wasn't sure you were ready. You are now. It's in the storage box. Green one. Top shelf." He found it that night. Dusty, worn. The leather cracked along the spine. He waited until the apartment was quiet. Then he opened it. Emma's words unfolded like breath after drowning. "I never hated him. I just needed him to fight for me. For them. I thought if I waited long enough, he might knock on the door. But doors stay closed without keys, and he never asked for one. Still, I think he could have been a good father. I saw it in the way he held things gently. In how he looked at maps like they were puzzles worth solving. Maybe he just never saw that we were a map too. That we were worth solving. Page after page, the same ache. Hope and fear dancing on paper. At the very end, she had written, "If you're reading this, it means you found your way back. I'm proud of you. Tell them I never stopped loving them. Even when I couldn't say the words." James closed the journal. He didn't cry. But he carried it to the bookshelf, placed it between Jude's favorite science guide and Ellie's drawing folder. A quiet promise. That weekend, Liam handed him a letter. It was short. Printed on school paper. "Mr. Crawford, we are learning about family trees. I don't know what branch to put you on. But I think I want to put you next to Mom. That way, it makes sense. Is that okay? Liam." James looked at him. "Yes. It's more than okay." Liam nodded. "Okay. Then I guess, you're part of our tree now." And just like that, something ancient and knotted inside James finally began to bloom. The invitation was printed on thick ivory cardstock, embossed with gold. "James Crawford and family are cordially invited to the Spring Benefactors Gala for Children's Health Initiatives of New York." It arrived with a handwritten note from a board member James barely remembered. "Your recent work with pediatric mental health outreach has not gone unnoticed. We hope to honor your contributions formally. James stared at the words for a long time. Why did they put in family? Ellie asked that evening, tracing the gold letters with her finger. Because you are my family, James said. Jude looked up from his book. So, like officially? James hesitated. Not on paper yet. But I've been talking to a lawyer. About adoption. Only if you want that. Ellie gasped. Do we get to change our names? James smiled. Only if you want to. Liam sat across from them, silent. He looked at the invitation. Then at James. Will people know we're yours? Yes. He nodded slowly. Then I want to keep Thompson. Jude tilted his head. Why? Because Mom gave it to us, Liam said. And she gave us to him. There was no argument. Just understanding. So when the legal documents were signed a month later, they became Liam Thompson Crawford, Jude Thompson Crawford, Ellie Thompson Crawford. 3 names that carried 2 histories, and 1 future. At the gala, they walked in together. James in a charcoal suit. Ellie in a yellow dress with silver sneakers. Jude wore a tiny bow tie. Liam refused anything formal and showed up in a navy hoodie. No one cared. When they entered the ballroom, conversations paused. People stared. James didn't flinch. One man from the tech world, a former colleague, approached. Didn't know you had kids. I didn't, James replied. Now I do. That shut him up. Jude explored the dessert table like a scientist. Ellie collected napkins with her name written in cursive. Liam stayed close, eyes scanning everything. James kept a hand on his shoulder. Not as possession. As presence. Midway through the evening, James was invited to the stage. He didn't prepare a speech. He just looked at the crowd. Then at the 3 children watching him from the front row. When I was younger, he began, I thought success meant never needing anyone. No vulnerability. No mess. No attachments. He paused. And then life handed me 3 small people who upended everything I thought I knew. They didn't need me to be perfect. Just present. They gave me a second chance. Not just at fatherhood. At humanity. He looked at them again. Ellie waved. Jude grinned. Liam nodded once. I used to build companies, he said. Now I build breakfast. And bedtime stories. And trust. The room was silent. I used to be a man with everything, he said. But it turns out, everything is just noise, until you have someone who whispers, I believe you're mine. He stepped down without applause. But at the table, Ellie hugged him. Jude said, That was not bad for someone who hates talking. And Liam? Liam handed him a folded note. You don't have to be like Mom. You're not her. But you don't have to be scared anymore. We're not leaving. James slipped the note into his pocket. And this time, when people stared at him, he stared back. Not as a man pretending to belong, but as a father. With a name worth keeping. Spring came late that year. The cherry blossoms in Prospect Park bloomed all at once, as if trying to make up for lost time. Ellie said they looked like confetti thrown by the sky. Jude researched pollination patterns. Liam sketched one branch for over an hour, eyes narrowed, pencil steady. James watched them from a bench, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee gone cold. It had been 6 months since Margaret's funeral. 6 months of school mornings, library runs, spilled cereal, late-night fevers, lost gloves, laughter that echoed against windows that once reflected only silence. 6 months of fatherhood, imperfect, untrained, sacred. And still, he thought of Emma every day. She had given them life. And left behind pieces he was still learning how to hold. The last box came from Margaret's attorney. A worn cardboard cube marked only Emma, personal. Inside were old postcards, a hospital ID badge, ultrasound prints, and at the very bottom, a sealed envelope addressed to be opened when you're sure. There was no name. No date. James didn't open it at first. He left it on the nightstand. Then moved it to the desk drawer. Then back to the shelf. Weeks passed. One rainy Sunday, while the kids were at a friend's house, he sat by the window and finally slid his thumb under the flap. Inside was a single page, Emma's handwriting unmistakable. If you're reading this, it means you stayed. Not for guilt. Not for redemption. Just for them. They're the best of both of us. Jude has your precision. Liam has your stubborn heart. Ellie has your imagination, God help you. I wanted you to know I was never angry in the end. Just sad you didn't get to see it. The first steps. The bedtime songs. The way they say each other's names in sleep. But I see you now. I see the man who came back. Tell them I chose you. Even when I didn't say it. And tell them this, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be theirs. Emma. He folded the letter, tears silent but sure. Then he called all three of them into the living room. Ellie curled beside him. Jude brought the origami fox he'd made that morning. Liam stood with arms crossed, always pretending not to care. James pulled the letter from his pocket. She wrote something, he said. For you. For us. I think you should hear it. He read it aloud. No one spoke. Ellie sniffled once. Jude held the fox tighter. Liam wiped his eyes quickly. Then he said, She was right, you know. About what? You're not perfect. James smiled. I'm working on it. Liam nodded. Don't. James blinked. Don't? Just be ours, Jude said quietly. And that was it. That was the moment. Not a grand declaration. Just belonging. Years later, long after Jude's science fair ribbons had faded and Ellie stopped drawing on the kitchen floor and Liam left for college with his mother's photograph tucked in his coat pocket, the three of them would still come home. And James, older, grayer, steadier, would still keep Emma's letter in the drawer by the window. Sometimes he read it again. Sometimes he didn't have to. Because some stories don't need retelling. They just need to be lived. Together.